Stims, we love them, right? The question is less if stims are good, more why do I never see any players actually use them? Are they just not that useful? Do they need a buff? Well, not really, but we'll get to that. First, some basic stim knowledge, and then some numbers knowledge. So, where does one find stims? Stims are found all around Tertium, with a few maps either granting the player a guaranteed stim drop, or a higher concentration of them based on the mission modifiers. But basically, you can just find them all around. You can pick up one stim at a time. If you want to pick up another stim, you can pick it up and drop the previous stim you were holding on to. If you use a stim and you had a stim already active, it will overtake the previous effect. The only exception to this is the green stim, because it's instantaneous. When wielding a stim, you can hold down the fire or attack button to inject yourself with its effects. If you hold down the aim or block button, you can hold the stim out ready to stab something with it. You can then press the fire or attack button to stick another player within range. This will give them the effects of the stim instead of yourself. Maybe you don't need its effects right now, but a teammate could, and this way you can just jab a teammate in a pinch. If you hold down your special weapon input, in my case the third mouse button I have, you can release it and it hands off the stim to another player, granted if they don't already have a stim. This also works with ammunition and medical kits. This is a feature I rarely see anybody use. I think it's because it's just never really explained, but yeah, you can do it. You can just give a stim to someone else.
Have this.
There are 4 types of common stim the player can utilize. Green for medical, red for combat, blue for celerity, yellow for concentration. Green stims are great. They can heal a portion of the player's health and cure corruption. They either cure 25% of the player's maximum health or a single bar of health, whichever one is greater. And I'm gonna spoil the surprise. These are the best stim in the game, actually. If available, you should always be grabbing these, and you should always be trying to look for them if you can. All classes benefit from their effects. Well, maybe not Martyrdom Zealots, but sometimes Martyrdom Zealots, it's complicated. Point is, they're good. They're just very good. You can find an increase of them on Pox Gas maps, and you can find 4 guaranteed ones right before the Karnak twins fight. There might be more locations for some of these guaranteed stims that I either don't remember or don't know about. Feel free to leave a comment about any you know. Now, unlike the green stim, which is just instantaneous, all other stims use a duration period of 15 seconds. Red stims, or combat stims, increase damage by 25%. Yes, all damage. This includes psychic attacks, Arbites dog, grenades, and so on and so forth. But there's more. In Psychers, they can also decrease peril gain, and on top of that, they give you stagger and rending. Stagger is exactly what it sounds like, it staggers enemies, and rending is essentially true damage. It pierces through armor as if it wasn't really there. Blue stims, or celerity stims, increase your speed. Of what? A lot of stuff. They increase attack speed by 15%, reload speed by 15%, your stamina regenerate. It's a lot of stuff. They do a lot of stuff. Anything that could use a little bit more speed would really benefit from its effects. Ogrins, Psychers with the Head Popper 9000, or the Mind Bees, or anything with a charge rate. It even helps out slower reloading weapons. The only thing it doesn't speed up is your sprint speed, or your movement speed. A small price to pay for a faster hell poor las gun. Yellow stims regenerate your ultimate cooldown, specifically by 300%. Typically, ultimate abilities in Darktide already have a fairly short cooldown. That is, if you're killing plenty of elites at a continuous rate. Longer cooldowns will get more mileage out of this one, like Chorus or Point Blank Barrage. Very short ultimates could also really benefit from the 15-second duration. And there you have it, the 4 generic stims in Darktide and how they work. Or at least a very basic rundown of how they work. So why does it seem like most players don't actually use them? It might seem that because of the Bound by Duty update, stims just had a really hard time keeping up with the rest of the game, but I think that's just simply not true. I think it's either a case of loss aversion or the effects of just not feeling that strong sometimes. And the effects of stims are actually quite strong, especially since they scale with player damage and stats by a percentage. From the testing I did, they never quite hit the point where they were game-breaking in any way. And they were game changers in only a few scenarios. Given that everything goes your way, they can hand you a last bit of damage to kill something. That or save your butt if you're playing a class that relies a lot on their ultimate. It's just most of the time those scenarios don't really come up that often. The other one is loss aversion, that players will just hold on to their emergency supplies for an emergency, but that emergency never comes. I'll use this health potion later type mentality. I know that's usually the reason I never use them. So circling back to the original question, it's not that stims are bad necessarily, it's that they're just okay in most scenarios and very strong in just a few. And the only exception to this is the green stim, because we always have corruption we need to clean off ourselves. Insert exception here for the Havoc 40 player that can just play this game completely blindfolded or whatever. That might be another reason why they don't really get a lot of use most of the time. It might be that players feel awkward about using them, or that they're using them wrong at first. I think the best way to learn the whens and whats of partaking in the Forbidden Needle is just to practice a little. Use them wrong before using them right. There will always be more stims and there will always be more attempts. Just stick it in if you feel like you're fighting off against too many ragers or something. Who cares? Just be aware of what's going on around you and what teammates might need. It's a team game after all. You know, share your resources a little bit. But in terms of being conscious about your team's needs, there isn't much of a list in terms of rules or who and what gets what stims. I think to me there are a few basic ground rules, plus some general considerations for your fellow rejects. I categorize these etiquette rules in 3 easy to understand tiers of descending importance. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier who gives a shit. Tier 1 are just things you should be performing and thinking about whenever possible. They mostly involve the green stim. If you see a reject who's on their last bar and are going to die soon, just stick them with the green needle. You could be greedy and keep it all to yourself, but having one additional teammate probably helps more than some potential healing salve. Plus, it's just a nice thing to do, you know? Another is to hand off any extra stims you have to players that don't have one. If you find an additional stim you want and don't want to keep the current one, just hand it off to someone whose hand is empty. Ideally, you want to hand it off to them, because just sticking them with it will confuse the shit out of them and it won't get the most use out of it. Context vary applies here. Sometimes that might be a good idea, sometimes it might not be. It depends. Tier 2 is more just consider teammates' builds and what stims they might like. No real hard rules, more just team dynamic vibes. If they're running something like a bolt gun or a charge staff or a plasma gun, you can hand off a celerity stim to them. Or if they're playing shout or chorus, hand them off a concentration stim. Damage for veterans and psychers. Maybe for charge zealots if you can actually keep up with them. Usually anyone with a lot of AoE to spread their rending and damage increase around. Explode Grin is also a very good choice for your damage stims. The list goes on. Hey, the context vary is very applicable here. What builds to help boost and what stim to hand off is a very broad, and frankly I'm spitballing here with some basic suggestions. Just really think about what's going on around you. Pay attention. And tier 3 is just what the fuck ever. If you're on a lower difficulty or swimming in stims, just stick your friend with it. If you see a psyker trying to head pop someone from far away, just give him a little boost. Why not? If you're full up on stims and you find some extras, just like to fucking use one up, who cares? And that's kind of it for generic rules. Most of them are just being courteous to other players and their behaviors, and do all that, pay some attention, and you should be fine. Now let's talk about toilet wine. As many of you might know, the Hive Scum has their very own unique stim concoction, and it takes up their stim slot. This means that they can't use generic stims. Well, I mean, they can actually. If you didn't fill out your stim lab at all, you can still pick up normal stims. They even work with your stim supply ultimate. Using practice deployment and fast-acting stims, you can get a pretty decent medic build going, give your entire team a combat stim or a celerity stim, and so on. But obviously, the best thing about it is that you can now be an AoE heal bot. Here's a really crummy build for you if you want to explore this further. I call it Clean Walter. Picking up a new stim also resets your ultimate's cooldown, so you can coordinate with your team and keep picking up new stims to feed your ultimate, and you can keep feeding them back. Keep buffing the team. And yeah, that's pretty good sounding, but there's an obvious catch to that. And that's the reason why most scum players would rather just use their homemade needles. The homemade stim returns every 15 seconds or so and is always available to be in your pocket. Wild stims are just unreliable. You never know when you're gonna get the next one, so you never know when you can actually use your ultimate. Otherwise, it's just a funny placebo effect you can place on your teammates thinking you did literally anything when in reality you didn't do anything. But they rely far too much on chance and goodwill from other players. And while a generic stim offers much stronger benefits in a single focused area, the Scum's homemade stims are actually far more versatile since you can apply the points into any category you really want and split it up into combat, speed, celerity, anything you want really. You can put concentration, celerity, and combat all in one stim if you really want to. or focus down one tree while also focusing down a second tree and really mix and match what you want to do with your stim. It's far more reliable and maybe not as strong, but more versatile in a situation. The only exception is the med stim. You can't really heal yourself with the stim. You can still cleanse corruption, but you can never give yourself more health than you already have. Instead of mirroring every single one of the generic stim trees, they gave you the barrage tree as a replacement for medicine. It lets you regenerate toughness at a rapid rate among a few other toughness resistance benefits, and I mean, I guess it's fine. If role-playing an Ogren is your thing, then go right ahead. But there really aren't a lot of benefits to this tree, considering how fast Scum can rebuild their toughness with something like Chem Fortified and so on. So now the interesting question. Why? Why can't Hive Scum pick up generic stims when he has his homemade soup? This is most likely a technical limitation of the Franken Squid engine that Darktide uses. The Hive Scum always has their 4th item slot occupied by a stim. Even if it's used up, it's just on a cooldown, like an ability. In fact, I'm willing to bet it either works exactly like a Veteran's Grenade works or an ultimate. But from a narrative perspective, it's just fun to imagine the Hive Scum can't do that store brand garbage anymore after they've learned how to make their own. I mean, I kinda get it. If I learned how to make soda, I too would want to drink soda bread anymore. So is Stim etiquette any different for the Hive Scum? Well, yes and no. If they have a stim supply, you should know about this super weird trait about it. And as of patch 1.11.7, it hasn't been removed yet. Most people are aware that stim supply carries the trait of the custom stim to the whole team. That's typically why you take it, so you can hand out custom stims to everyone. If the stim is on cooldown and they drop the supply, it's effectively just another placebo. It does still add to your chemical dependency though. But if you drop an empty supply pack and you step out and back in, the supply gives you the effects of the custom stim as if it was never on cooldown. For me, this only seemed to work with fast acting stims, because when I turned the perk off, it just stopped working. The way I tested this was spawning a crusher and shooting it with my pistols, mostly because they just do consistent headshot damage. Excluding any crits, they deal about 100 damage per headshot. This stim is supposed to just give me rending and damage. And with the stim active, I was dealing about 222 damage, excluding crits again. You can see that I've used up my stim. I place it down and just do about 100 damage again. But I walk out and walk back in and bam, 222 again. Alright, now check this out. If you use your stim, then drop the supply pack out in, congrats, you've now doubled your stim damage bonus, up to 400 damage per shot. Genuinely, not sure if it's supposed to work this way. It feels like a massive bug, but enjoy it while it's still here. Now back to our friendly neighborhood drug dealer. If they do bring stim supply, consider doing this little dance to help them out. As part of etiquette, take a little step out, take a step back in. Do the hokey pokey and you get real high. Other than that, just remember they can't usually pick up stims or carry them. If they ask, stick them with a med stim if applicable, etc. And if you're the scum, tell your team you're doing some weird shit. They won't know if you need help with your progesterone unless you tell them. Imagine if in future videos, Torlop just looks completely different. Estrogen for the Emperor. Thank you all for watching this short video, and I hope you've learned a little bit about stims, or so was the goal, really. Now, if you'll excuse me, I may have taken too many drugs. See you in the emergency room. The Emperor protects.